Hi, this is Allison Lee Rosenfeld, and you may know me as the voice of Bonnie from Pokémon, and you are watching Anime Egotists. Will you please take care of my big brother? Happy watching!
And welcome back to the Anime Egotists, where we could take down the gorilla, not with our intelligence or our brawn, but just like the gorilla would just get bored and leave.
Yeah, we'd managed to survive, but be extremely beaten up, I have a feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, at that point, I don't know if it's worth it. But, anyways, my name's Alex, and honestly, if I'm in the forest and I hear a voice, I'm not staying still, I'm running away.
I agree, and I'm Richard.
That's correct. And it's been a while since we've done a Pokemon movie, so we figured we'd do it today with Pokemon Forever, because it's called that because it's the fourth movie. I don't know why the ever part got added.
Yeah, and of course, this is the last of the kind of numbered films that it just becomes Pokemon and a name.
That's correct. And so considering how much we loved Pokemon Spell of the Unknown, how much we raved about it, I hope that continues with this one, but I guess in some cases we have to talk about that.
Yeah, this one, it wasn't my favorite growing up. It's not as bad as I feel like I remember it, but it's still not my favorite.
Well, let's get into it.
All right. So,
So the movie starts and it starts with Brock's narration. It's weird. He talks about, oh, the world of Pokemon. Some people use them for pets. Some people do research, and some people battle. And introduces him to us to Ash, Misty, and yours truly, Brock. Feels weird that they waited 4 movies to do this, but better late than never.
yeah, and I just like that they picked Brock because it reminds me of the old Four Kids dub of One Piece opening where he introduces the world in that.
Oh, now you have nice things to say about the One Piece rap.
It's just hilarious that that's who they got to do this. It's like, is this a nod to that?
Well, when the episode Ash captured Bulbasaur, Ash did theorize that Brock got captured by pirates. So maybe he was away doing that at the time.
Yeah, it's quite possible.
Yeah. Also, we see a Porygon during Brock's narration that made me go, "Oh, Porygon! I'm happy you're here."
Yeah, you didn't deserve all the hate because, in all honesty, it's Pikachu that's the one that caused all the issues.
I agree. They call Ash the pride of Pallet Town, despite the fact that there are 3 other. Yeah. And then we get sent. Sorry, go ahead. You look like you want to say something.
Yeah, I was gonna say this isn't even like when Ash becomes like the only trainer left going for anything because Gary at this point is still trying to become a Pokemon trainer, master, whatever he's tried. He hasn't chosen to become a professor yet.
Yeah, though I guess the disappointment of Pallet Town isn't really a selling point. Come to Pallet Town, we have disappointments. Anyways, and then we get to we get through a forest and we see. All right, let's get this out of the way. The CGI for a lot of the forest is not my favorite.
No, it's definitely that early CGI that um, it doesn't blend right with the 2D animation that they throw on top of it, so it's just kind of there. It kind of takes away, as you said.
Yeah, but we see a kid named Sam walking towards the forest, and a random girl appears and says, "Hey, when you get to the forest and you hear a voice, stay still." Sending a horrible message was like, "Oh, just you hear random voices, just sit still, because if you run away, the spirit will capture you and teleport you through time." I would just walk away at that point. I'd be like, "Yeah, this forest isn't worth it. I'll catch a Stantler on another day."
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, and she also gives him a thing of bread,
Free food, sweet.
and he wanders off into the forest.
And then
And
there's this old man trying to capture Celebi with this weird atom contraption thing. I'm just like, what are these molecule thingamabobs that he's trying to use? Why can't people just use Pokeball? I don't know.
yeah, it's a little unorthodox and kind of weird because technology makes no sense in this universe. Because some
Exactly.
people have like uh science fiction technology, and this was supposed to be like 50 years ago, and
Yeah, we'll,
Yeah.
we'll we'll get into that in a little bit. But the kid stands up for Celebi and says to the hunter, "No, you're not going to hurt the Celebi." And the Celebi time travels with the kid, and the kid that Sam ends up dropping his notebook. Which once
Mhm.
again, you'd think Celebi would like blast them away or like teleport to another part of the forest, but no, time travel because like okay.
Yeah. So I think just then cut to uh the same Pokemon hunter a few uh like 50 years later or something. Or is it
Yep.
Ash first?
Yep, they jump to the present. I want to say it's 40 years later. I think that's what they said. But
Okay.
the old hunter is like getting jumped by this guy known as the Iron Masked Marauder.
Yeah.
Oh God, this guy made my head hurt.
Yeah, he's uh, a different Pokemon hunter, but he's using, I guess, Dark Balls, Evil Balls. I don't really know what they call it.
Oh sweet, yeah. So he shows up as I'm gonna capture the Pokemon, and there's an army of these Pokemon that are like locked in cages, and he captures a Tyranitar with what he calls a Dark Ball, which turns the Pokemon evil and automatically jumps their stats up to the highest level. Which some of y'all can understand why this is probably where they got the inspiration for Shadow Pokemon in the games, except the Shadow Pokemon were done a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah, he's uh then he pretty much has the Tyranitar attack all the other Pokemon that are uh there, which it's like, okay. And the whole reason he's targeted this hunter is he's trying to get information on Celebi because he heard that he almost caught one a long time ago.
Yeah, and then it cuts to Ash and the gang, and we get the original narrator back, and Misty and Brock are waiting on a ferry while Ash is holding them up.
He's battling a trainer with a Croconaw who's the pride of whatever town they're in.
Yeah, and he has an Australian accent, and his name is Dundee.
Seems legit.
Sure. He sends out a Croconaw and it gets destroyed by Pikachu, and Pikachu even uses Thunderbolt on Croconaw and the kid.
Yeah, I
Pikachu,
feel like Ash is cheating a lot in this first part.
yeah, I agree. And they even play the Johto League Champions theme, and it's a theme I keep flip-flopping on. Sometimes I'm like, I mean, it's okay, but it's not really one of my favorites. And other times I listen to it and I'm actively like tapping my foot. I'm like, oh, I like this one.
Yeah, I can understand that. I've always been partial to uh the Master Quest theme, which was the end of Johto's, just because that
Yeah.
one was the one I heard over and over again. I
Yeah,
do
well,
like this one.
I guess we'll talk about that more with the next movie. But
Yeah.
Ash runs off, and the fairy's taking off. He jumps, and Brock can't catch him, but he's caught by somebody else. When I would have just been like, nope,
Hey, look, swim.
like this is what you get for holding us up, you bastard. But the guy catches him, and his name apparently is Mr. White, which I don't think they ever actually say his name in the movie, so I just had to look that up.
Yeah, I don't know if they actually really say any of the new side characters' names. If I mean, maybe they do it like once, but it's not one where you like really remember who they are.
Yeah, and while they're on the boat talking about, oh, you guys must be really into Pokemon, they see a Suicune and they are all like, oh, wow, what's that And then they call Professor Oak and they're like, oh, Suicune. I hope I get to see that again, but it's like, Ash, you've seen it before. They have revealed that this movie is actually canon. They reference it later in the Johto anime, but Ash has also seen Suicune before. He just doesn't remember. Never. This is why I just try to argue that none of the movies are canon because it just raises more questions.
Yeah, because isn't he meets Suicune at the very start of the Johto journey? When they reach Johto, there's a pure lake and there's Suicune standing in it.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And as the and and Professor Oak tells them, "Oh, it's Suicune. I saw it before." And then they hang up, and Oak's like, Huh, I wonder if I should have told him, which should we build up to it or should we just spoil the plot twist now?
Whatever you think. If you don't know, this movie is like 2 decades old at this point. So
Let's just keep going. I'll explain the positives and negatives about it later, but
okay.
we also see Team Rocket pedaling on their glider.
And Jesse has a cramp, I think is what she says.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm
They
like,
crash.
you didn't think like the balloon, look, the Magikarp, the balloon, the air balloon, but no, something you have to actively pedal for. They might as well have actually just been riding bicycles.
Yeah. They could have
Yeah.
done the disguise in bicycles and been fine. So
Yeah. Then again, to defend Jesse a bit, I woke up at about 1 a.m. in the morning today. Hey, felt a massive cramp in my leg, and I was like, "Ooh, I kind of feel that. I'm with you, Jesse. It was horrible."
yeah, I've had that happen. Middle of the night, it's enough to wake you up and go.
But they land it. But then the guy reveals that his boat can fly. Why he didn't just have a? No, no,
Why was he on the ferry in the first place?
I
Is
don't
kind of a
know.
question, but
Because. And they get to a treehouse area called Arborville, Fortree City's less what known cousin, and they get yelled at by the old woman from before who says, "Hey," and then Brock flirts with her granddaughter.
yeah, at least they seem to be about the same age, so it's not as creepy as it is when he flirts with like grown women or well, he doesn't
Mainly
really flirt with any.
mainly
Yeah, it's
grown
mainly
women.
grown women.
I will say Ash, Pikachu, and Misty had an expression on their face like they were like really this early in the. They had a look on their face that made it all worth it. But they do the same spiel. Hey, if you hear a voice in the forest, stand still. I okay, no.
So the trio goes into the woods, starts hearing noises, and the first thing that Ash does is take off running towards the source.
Yeah, he never was a good listener. Why do you think he went to school a few generations later?
Yeah, it was actually a boarding school his mom signed him up for to teach him to learn to listen.
And from what I could tell, it still didn't work. But they find Sam, but Celebi is nowhere to be found. So they take Sam back, and the older woman recognizes him. It's like, "Hey, I lost you from 40 years ago," and she has his sketchbook.
So at least they set a search party and couldn't find him. So at least they
Uh,
did something.
that search party lasted maybe 20 minutes at best.
Eh, Walked in, found his notebook, went, "Oh, he must have been the voice of the forest," and turned around and left.
It probably happens more than you think. But they also go back to the forest. They also go back looking into the forest, and there are a lot of wild Pokemon. And I brought up Stantler earlier, but dear God, I don't remember Stantler sounding like this in the actual anime because in the movie this is the voice. Stantler. I'm like, what the hell are they feeding these Pokemon? I would have called a Stantler if it sounded like this because it sounded so deep.
It's just getting fed creatine powder.
I've been on protein shakes lately. Yeah, I understand it.
It's just nothing but protein shakes for Staplers.
Yeah, but they find like they talk about Celebi. It's like, oh, Celebi loves the Lake of Life, and when Sam finds it, the twerps want to help respectably. Like
Mhm.
Team Rocket, and then Team Rocket shows up, and then they land, and then Sam says, are they going to be okay? And Misty's like, I mean, unfortunately, yes, they're going to be okay. I'm like, okay, I understand why you say that, but that is really messed up, Misty.
At least she knows that they are fine. It's one of those things that she doesn't. She's like, I know they're fine because they'll be back.
Like always. But they find Celebi in the forest and they climb up a tree together, and Celebi almighty pushes them.
Yeah, and Sam and Ash kind of go flying back, and then they climb up, and Sam's like, "Don't you remember me? I'm the one that tried to save you earlier, and you brought me here."
Yeah, but yeah, and oddly enough, it's weird because it seems like Ash is more the one who's like, hey, it's gonna be okay. Like Ash seems a little more mature at parts in this movie, which is a good thing until one line that he says that made me go, "Wow, that just throw that out the window, I guess."
Yeah.
Yeah, but they get Celebi back, and and as they're leaving, the Iron Mask Marauder shows up with a giant spire walker thing.
Hmm.
You watch. I feel like you watch more science fiction movies than me. Are these things ever a reliable form of transportation?
No, no, they are not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they find him, and they say, "Who are you?" And he says, "A Pokemon lover." And I'm like, "Ah, you're the one who keeps drawing that stuff about Vaporeon. Please stop." We're filming this in the morning. I'm feeling weird today. Hey, but Team Rocket, it actually tried to save the twerps because it like remember they're like we always say they're bad guys, but they're not bad guys. Hi,
Hmm.
James sends out Wheezing.
Yeah.
And yes, I still miss it. And when they get destroyed, and the twerps run off. Team Rocket recognized the Masked Marauder.
Yeah. They know that he's a high-ranking like contractor for Team Rocket. They imply he's a member, but they also imply that he's not like a normal member, so it's kind of hard to tell what he is.
I think they said he's an executive, so it's like, wait, so whenever there's an executive like Zoom meeting or something, everybody just has ridiculous outfits that they wear.
Yes.
I also remember Meowth saying, "Isn't he from that Mexican wrestling movie?" I'm like, okay, so now we have Minnesota, Amsterdam, and now Mexico all canonically exist in the Pokemon universe. Okay,
And Mexico has wrestling,
yeah,
so he's a lucha libre.
yeah, I'm okay with that. And they start groveling, and Meowth even says, "Oh, we're all members of Team Rocket too, but Pokemon get to go naked," which made me laugh more than I was like, okay, that's pretty
Yeah,
funny.
that's like one of the most awkward lines, but yet funny as well.
Yeah, yeah, and when they find the twerps again, and the Mass Marauder sends out Scizor and Sneasel.
Which is implied to be a Scyther we saw earlier and a Sneasel we saw earlier that were in the cages that he used the dark balls on.
Well, Weavile hasn't been invented yet, so yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Also Scizor, one of my dad's favorite Pokemon.
yeah, I like it too. It's one of my favorite Gen 2s.
Yeah, and but as they're getting away, Misty hurts her foot, but Sam gives Celebi to Brock to take care of, and Sam sends out a Charmeleon with a steampunk Pokeball, which they never really go into. Why are there steampunk Pokeballs?
Yeah, it kind of throws a wrench into like everything because again, the Pokemon Hunter that he fought in the past had tech that was kind of similar to what they have in some layers now in the Pokemon universe, and then he turns around and this is what he has. So it's like, how does technology work in this universe?
Yeah, plus you tease us with a steampunk Pokemon world. Honestly, even if that was like a mini region for like a spin-off game or something like that, I'd actually be interested in that. No, Legends Arceus doesn't really count.
Well, I mean, we get it kind of again in like 30 more movies.
Yeah, but Ash also sends out his Bayleaf, and the thing I notice is like for apparently this is where they play the original Japanese soundtrack as opposed to like their own signature movie soundtrack. I'm like, oh, I've heard these songs from the anime. It doesn't really help or hurt but it's just something I noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, but
they get away
and Brock
though
also sends us Onyx at this point as well, doesn't he?
later in the movie.
Oh,
I have something to say about Onyx, but they
okay.
get away and they find an Ursa ring and a Teddy Ursa. They start following them. Then they find a Furret and a Stantler, and then they get to the lake. They heal themselves, and Celebi heals itself, and even heals Misty's hurt ankle.
Yep.
And then they start swimming with Ash and Sam start swimming with Celebi. They almost drowned thanks to Celebi before Celebi saves them. Yeah, Celebi's kind of a jerk.
Yeah. It's supposed to be that playful, like, hey, look, I'm uh fun forest spirit, but it's like, but you keep causing issues. Why?
If the villain wasn't so stupid, I actually would probably be on his side. Speaking of, apparently his name in the Japanese version is Vicious.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's better or worse, honestly.
No, but it's very Japanese.
Yes, but they also find the berry tree. Eva enjoy them, and Team Rocket it are with the Iron Mask Marauder and the giant snake, the Spider Walker thing. They try and grab a peach. They fail, and then they chase after the spider because they fall off of it. Apparently, that was not in the Japanese version. 4Kids commissioned that.
Really?
Yep.
Oh God.
Yeah. We'll talk more about that in a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and after their, but it does lead to them running off and James saying, "We'll chip in for gas." I'm like, I don't want to know how much gas this takes or how much it costs, so I don't want to think about that.
Especially because everything else they seem to make is electric powered or steam powered using fire or electric Pokemon. So
Well, yeah, but the twerps are all asleep except for Ash and Sam is staying up and he's drawing Celebi sleeping next to Pikachu. Who and Ash is like, oh, so what's it like being in the future? And Sam's like, oh, and Sam kind of brushes it off, like you can tell he's a little sad about. And Ash is like, wow, I never would have expected that about the future, but at least I'm not stuck in it like you. And I'm like, read the. I know you're not in a room, but please read the room.
yeah, he's not happy about being stuck here, but he's kind of doing his best just to help with the current situation and hopes that he might get back someday.
Yeah, in Ash's defense, he does apologize immediately after, like, "Hey, I didn't mean to say that." And Sam just talks about, "Oh, well, it's just my mom. I'm just worried about my mom. Your mom worries about you too, right?" And I'm like, "Probably not. She seems to send him off a lot more regularly. So, but sure, let's pretend she's worried."
Yeah, she always seems to be buying him clothes and selling him. Oh, I knew your journey would start right away, so here you go.
Just by coincidence. Sam also offers Ash 40-year-old bread. I know that it didn't age in the time loop, but I'd like to think that Sam was like, "Oh, you want to make a joke about me being stuck in the past? Have this moldy bread. Get ready for a stomach bug in the morning."
Yeah, but they talk about how good it is because it tastes like it was only baked yesterday, which I guess technically it was, but it was also baked 40 years ago and a
Yeah.
day.
But they also go to a forest and they see Metapod evolving, which is it's a really it's not a completely necessary scene, but it is a nicely shot scene.
I would have liked it had they, oh, look at all the metapods evolving. And then they cut and it's, oh, look. And then they get chased by Kakuna that just evolved
I thought you were
into
gonna say
Pico.
he'd be. I thought I'd be fine with that. I thought you were gonna say, "Hey, it's like look at all the Butterfree." It's like, oh crap, my Butterfree.
Yeah, but I would like it. I would have liked to have them having like Kakuna evolve into Beedrill and the Beedrill chase them back to the campsite.
Yeah, well, I know it's not really a competitive Pokemon, but I always did like Beedrill. There was something cool about it.
Yeah, it was one that it was, I didn't really understand that it was different that much and not good. So I tried to use it when I was a kid.
Yeah, and then it got a Mega Evolution. Not what I was expecting, but I'd still take it. But the next day, they wake up and the Iron Mask Marauder and Team Rocket find Celebi, with the Spider Walker and Team Rocket have nets.
Yep.
I mean, I mean, I understand if they're catching Fairly Odd Parents, but I don't think those are good. Never mind. Hey, but this is where the movie kind of legitimately starts to lose me.
Okay.
Because let's see, you have this giant spider walker, you have this dangerous hunter, you have Team Rocket, and the twerps don't send out any of their Pokemon.
Yeah. Because at this point, the Walker pretty much right away almost grabs Celebi and starts shocking it, right?
That's correct, yes.
So, yeah, it's like they all are just sitting around. It's like, okay, so this is like maybe pre-Orange Islands, so, but they do have most of their teams already set up at this point.
Let's see. Ash already had Bayleaf. We saw that he had Totodile in the last movie. He's probably has Misty has Pokemon. Bro, nobody sends out their Pokemon. They're just like, hey, stop. Like look, I understand that they needed to show what the next part was, but it kind of just comes across like of them being stupid in some cases.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if there had been a scene where one of the villagers tosses out a Pokemon and the Iron Mask Marauder captures it in a Dark Ball and he's able to steal it that way, and it now works for him as an evil Pokemon. If they had shown something like that, it would make at least give it us a reason why they're not sending out Pokemon.
Yes, exactly. Although I can't be fully hard on the twerps because because Celebi does get captured in the Dark Ball. Oh, and the pit and all of a sudden Pidgey start attacking the guy. I'm like, really? Out of all the I know there aren't a lot of super strong Pokemon, but like 4 or 5 Pidgey just start swarming at him. That's the most you guys are willing to do? All right, sure.
Especially because there's like Nidokings, Rhydon, I think, are shown in the background. Ursaring.
When they were swimming in the lake, there was a Gyarados there. I'm like, why is there a Gyarados in the fort? No, sure. No, nobody does anything except Ash, who charges in, gets the Dark Ball, and then proceeds to get his fingers crushed by this guy. He's like, I think that belongs to me. I'm like, Ash, if your fingers put your fingers in the Lake of Life, please, because like this. I felt like this was a unexpectedly gruesome scene.
Yeah, but uh, and there's a lot of unnecessary suspense for the build up to him tossing the dark ball and releasing Celebi out to battle for him.
Yeah, but all the wild Pokemon show up. They once again do nothing except stand there and just look somewhat like they don't know what they're doing. And
Hey, look, it's the Gen 2 movie or the second movie.
well, they'll always be there in case they're needed. But I guess they never said they had. They said they'll be there if they're needed. They never said they'll do anything if they're needed. Yeah,
Exactly.
and then he sends out Dark Celebi and says, Celebi, get rid of them all. By the way, this guy, you know this guy is voiced by Dan Green, correct?
Yes, I'm like, oh my god, where's the Dark Magician?
No, that's what I was thinking too. I kept thinking he was going to say, Celebi, get rid of them all. Dark magic attack. And it's like, no, Dan, this isn't that movie.
Yes, I know you're a part of both of the two biggest kid anime series of the early 2000s, but this is a different. This is that the second one that you're just a side character in.
Well, considering Eric Stewart was also in this movie, in Dan Green's defense, I get confused too. It's like, huh, Yuki and Kaiba are both in Pokemon, or yeah, yeah. But Celebi attacks all the wild Pokemon, and Team Rocket are confused, like, oh my god, this is what's happening. I'm like, yeah, he wasn't gonna capture the Pokemon, do nothing with you idiots. But then what happens next?
Well, isn't this the point where they're like, so you're gonna give it to Giovanni, right? And then
They, they
and
kind
he's like, no, I'm gonna make Giovanni bow to me.
Oh no! We'll get to that. But then Celebi forms this weird forest monster thing, and Jesse gets absorbed into it.
And Jesse gets like a lot of bad luck in this film.
Well, she doesn't get to eat the peach. She gets kidnapped, and she gets tied up. And why is she
And she
tied
gets
up?
the leg cramp at the start.
Oh God, I feel so bad. Once again, one of the most sympathetic characters in Pokemon is Jesse. But then the thing walks off, and they're all trying to grab Celebi. They're all trying to go after Celebi, and James, and Meowth are obviously very worried about Jesse.
Hmm. Yeah.
And the woman, Diana, and the old woman appear, and Suicune is staring off in the distance. Once again, why didn't you do anything?
It's the North Wind. It comes when it feels like it, not when it's called.
Yeah. Also, we see Suicune in the CGI we talked about before. And look, as coming from the person who always says, "Oh, well, animation doesn't matter if the rest of the thing is good, or graphics in the video game don't matter as long as everything else is good." It is distracting to the point where I'm like, I don't love this.
Yeah, they're I don't know. It's not well blended, and we've seen them do blend CGI pretty well already in the previous film. So it just something about this is not good. It
Yeah,
looks like it's,
keep going.
I was just gonna say it's like they paint this arguably very beautiful 2D like backgrounds in this part from what I remember, and then they CGI this giant thing on top, or is it vice versa? But I think it's this. I think it's that way, right?
Yeah, yeah, and then we get to the point you just referenced when Jesse's like, "Oh, you're gonna give this Pokemon to the boss." Is like, no, the boss has to fear me now. Oh, because with Celebi, I could take over Team Rocket and the world. I'm like, so let me see if I get this straight. You capture a legendary Pokemon, a pretty powerful legendary Pokemon that can time travel. Well, and multiverse theory doesn't seem to be a thing in the Pokemon universe from what we can tell, especially in later episodes. And you decide that Team Rocket is where you want to that's your ambition, taking over Team Rocket, maybe the world if you're feeling like it. That's it.
Well, his only other goal would be to become the world's greatest lucha libre, but I don't know if that's actually going to happen.
I guess my philosophy is if you have a legendary Pokemon, don't you think you'd use its strength, its time travel? Don't you think it'd be a case of it's like, oh, I'm going to use this time traveling Pokemon to go back in time and do whatever, or go into the future and do whatever it is I want to do?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't, yeah, the Iron Mask Marauder. I don't like this villain.
Yeah, he's like overly. He's that cartoon evil, but also not. I don't know how to put it. It's he's somebody who could legit be somebody evil in the real world, but also somebody who's just over the top as well. I don't know how to really describe it.
He's also one of the first villains to actively call himself evil. Like, sure, Jesse and James do it, but we know they don't actually mean it. But like a lot of other Pokemon villains do what they want for selfish reasons or think they're doing the right thing, whether that's actually true or not. But he just says, "I'm evil," which kind of makes it all the more comedic in some areas.
So uh, at this point, though, Ash and Sam start trying to climb the giant thing to get to Celebi. They Jesse rescues one of them,
Yeah, she
right?
rescues both. She rescues both of them, and like she saves them from falling, and then they refuse. They just go off without saving
Ignore
her.
her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also the Marauder sends out Tyranitar, and this is when Onyx actually shows up. And
Okay.
Onyx wins. Also wins thanks to Suicune, but Onyx wins, which it did not do a whole lot in the anime.
So good for Onyx.
Yay. Hey, and then Celebi wavers due to the Heart of the Card speech, and the wood creature golem creature thing starts falling into the lake. And Celebi is badly hurt, and it starts like legitimately withering.
Yeah. And it manages to save Ash and Sam using its like last of its energy to use, I guess, psychic until they are able to land on their feet in like the shallows of the water.
Yeah. Mr. White and the others show up alongside the others, and they put Celebi in the Lake of Life, and the old woman goes, "It's not working. The forest is hurt. The lake's hurt. The forest is dying." And then one of them says, "Wait, can't Suicune clean the lake?" And then Suicune just starts cleaning the lake. Why it didn't do that and the second they got there, I'm not 100% sure.
It's probably one of those things because it's like I'm a legendary Pokemon. I feel like I need to be asked. If you don't ask me, how am I supposed to know that you want me to do this? It's like if you don't pray to a god, how do you expect to get your prayers answered?
I think it had now I'm slowly starting. I want to make an apology to Go because he called a Suicune. I'm like, no, Suicune's one of the dumbest. This makes me dislike Suicune because it's just like so because if it no, I guess in the end it didn't matter because the lake gets healed. They put Celebi back in the water and it's still not healing Celebi.
And then we get the um, crying moment for this movie, where they
Yeah, I will fully admit, jokes aside, they milk this moment and they kind of do it perfectly because everybody's trying their hardest to keep it together. And there's some easier than others. And it kind of just demonstrates the forest legitimately is kind of a way of life. Hey, Celebi's dying alongside the forest. It's thanks to all the destruction from the hunter. Her just kind of showcasing that sometimes the damage we do to the environment is permanent. It's something
Mhm.
like you can't always bring something back. It's really heart-wrenching, and the fact that this movie decided to go with it honestly really impressed me.
Until
What-
Time Vortex opens
Keep
and
going.
like 30 other Celebes come flying in. Whether they're the same Celebi just from different time periods or other Celebi, it's never really implied what's happened, but they kind of heal Celebi somehow using, I don't know, some nature power thing.
Richard, I always consider you to be probably one of the smarter people in my group. Why didn't they show up sooner? No, no,
Plot
no,
convenience.
no, no, no. I that's not gonna work. Why didn't they? These idiots can time travel. These morons can show up whenever they want, and they decide to show up right when Celebi is on the verge of death, not before any of this destruction happens, not before the Iron Mask Marauder's born, and they just decide to tell his parents, no, just not tonight, maybe another night. But they decide to show up when all the destruction has happened. This this kind of ruins the movie for me.
Yeah, it removes the message that they seem to be going for at this moment where the stuff can't be undone. And then they proceed to uh, tell us that, oh, by the way, but it can be redone with time travel. It's
And
like,
crying.
yeah,
Look, the crying didn't technically lead to it like it did the first movie, so I'll give it a little bit of a pass there. But it seems like whenever somebody in the Pokemon anime dies, just start crying and they'll come back. Maybe they would have stayed. Maybe they would have saved that Stoutland if they had done that.
it's okay. We all cried when Brock left, and he didn't even die. It was just that we all cried, and they brought it back like a season later.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, I started crying when Damien left, but then he didn't come back. But those were more happy tears that he was gone.
But they cut to a big celebration with all of them flying around and Celebi, and then it uh, Celebi flies up to Sam, I think, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, are you going to take me back to where I belong?
And then my Marauder jumps up and grabs Celebi. He was in the water for long enough, and with how polluted it was, he probably should have drowned or gotten some form of sickness, but I guess not. He flies away on his jetpack, which is ironically a way more dependable mode of transportation than his Spider Walker. But Ash and Pikachu electrocute him. They start falling. The Ash and Pikachu get saved, but the Mass Marauder just falls down, but he's still alive. So what was the point of saving Ash if both of them could have survived, I guess.
Yeah, then he gets surrounded by the villager people, the old woman, her granddaughter, and Mr. White, and they are like, and he's like searching his vest for his dark balls, and they are all gone.
Yeah, and of course the bug Pokemon used String Shot on him, even though which I was kind of disappointed by because you saw Mr. White and he was cracking his knuckles, and the old woman's like, "You tried to hurt this forest in our village, and we don't appreciate that." I'm like, "Are they gonna beat his ass?" This movie would be redeemed if it just showed a one-sided ass kicking on this guy.
I just the version I think of it is literally the version we filmed in the anime summit. It's
Oh
literally
Jesus!
just that, but uh, and the old woman. It ends with the old woman with her cane just,
I would have
and
been
that's just how
okay.
it ends.
I'd like to think the Marauder would have been like, no, 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 you can't beat me up. This is for kids. And Mr. White would have been like, yeah, this is for kids. So we can do whatever we want as long as it's off screen. No, please, wait. Hey, and then you just hear sound effects and we're just like, so we gonna show that? No. Anybody else want to turn? I'm in.
It's just a long line of like all the random trainers we've seen throughout like the entire series is just lined up, walking up.
You see,
Like you see them even like some putting on like brass knuckles and stuff.
you see Dawn and Barry in the back. It's like, wait, they haven't been introduced. You know what? Screw it. We don't care.
we're still two generations. Like we don't see May or Max, we just see Dawn and Barry.
Oh, sweet God. We see two other Celebes lined up. We see another Iron Mask Marauder, but he's like a baby. He's like a baby. Everybody's waiting to beat this man's ass.
You ruined my future.
I was happy before this, but Celebi takes Sam back, and Celebi disappears too. And they get back to the phone that they were in the middle of the port, and they talk about how Oak says, "Oh, you and Sam will be friends forever, Ash." But then Misty says, "Wait, we didn't tell Professor Oak Sam's name. How does he know?" And then it's revealed that the reason Oak knows Sam's name is because Oak has the same sketchbook that Sam has, which leads to the plot twist that
Professor Oak, Professor Samuel Oak is Sam.
yeah, they this is another part where they added a few scenes because according to apparently the Japanese version has it heavily implied that Sam and Oak are the same person. But 4Kids commissioned a couple of extra scenes to make sure the kids knew, yes, this is the same person, which honestly they could have just added a line or two besides paying thousands of dollars for yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, and then that's kind of the end of the movie. You get scenes in the background of the credits of Oak like searching his lab and stuff.
Yes, and we see Jessie floating, and she seems happy. James and Meowth find her, and they start floating. It's also revealed all the other Pokemon that were in Dark Balls have been freed, and the Tyranitar starts swimming off. Team Rocket, you probably could have captured it and become friends with it, but I guess not. And it ends. The end credits theme, specifically the lyrics are Celebi Rate.
Gotta love it.
So Pokemon Forever. Yeah, this isn't a good movie.
Yeah, it's definitely never going to be among my favorites of the Pokemon movies, but it's still more enjoyable than like some of the uh later ones that we'll eventually come to, I think.
It's one of the better bad movies, but I still think it's bad. And Celebi gets
Yeah.
kind you start to realize more and more that Celebi is kind of as cute as it can be. It's kind of obnoxious. The main villain is incredibly dumb. Is incredibly dumb. They backtrack on the message, and overall, up to a point, it's kind of a boring movie at times.
Yeah, they I don't know, there it feels like there could be so much this movie could have been, and I wonder if they had stuck with the message of like if it would have landed. But again, it's supposed to be a kids movie as well, so you can't really have too many characters die, even if you want to get a good message across.
Even if several movies in Pokemon do have people and Pokemon legitimately dying, but we'll get to them. Also, fun fact, this was Suicune's movie. Suicune's movie it actually wasn't, but okay. But they include Suicune in this movie because Suicune was apparently supposed to be part of the GS Ball storyline, and they decided, you know what? Let's just give Suicune a movie instead. We won't include the GS Ball stuff. I don't think it was worth it.
Yeah, and it annoys me still to this day that we never got the completion of that plot line because it was like so heavy through all of the Orange Islands in the first season of Johto, and then it's like, nothing comes of it.
Yeah, and the thing look, we brought up this movie was canon before, and it kind of bothers me because Professor Oak just says, "Oh, well, I probably should have told him." I'm like, "Yeah, it's a pretty big secret, you jerk." If this like they don't address this very often, so I'm kind of like, wow, it makes me like Professor Oak kind of even less.
Imagine to his horror when he found out that like a woman in the village that he decided to open his Pokemon lab in had a kid named Ash. He has black hair and these weird squiggly lines on his cheeks.
No.
Kind of like the kid that he met 40 or 50 or at that point 30 years ago.
Yeah, and oh, that's another thing to talk about. So Sam is around the same age as Ash, from what we can tell, and 40 years have passed. So does that mean Professor Oak is 50?
Apparently,
Oh, he does not look. Wow, he does not look good for 50.
yeah, he grayed really fast.
Yeah, so like I said, this isn't the worst movie ever. I like Ash and Sam's bond. There are some jokes that but it's just it is one of my. It's not one of my particular favorite movies. Even as a kid, I was kind of like, I'm not loving this.
Yeah, this was one that I skipped a lot when I was a kid. I would watch the first, the second, the third over and over again, but uh the fourth one I would skip. I'd probably skip this one and the fifth one a lot and jump to like like when we get into actual Hoenn.
Yeah, but I guess that's the next one movie we'd be talking about. Pokemon Heroes. Like I've said before, every time I watch that movie, my opinion changes. So it's going to be an interesting one to talk about.
Yeah, it's one that as I've gotten older, I've come to like more from what I remember. So I want to rewatch that one and give it another shot just to see if it's even more
Y-
improved than I remember.
Yeah, that being said, a lot of people love that movie. So well, I get a sneaking suspicion that we might have to call somebody in for that one.
Okay, we'll have to see. I don't know who we would call in on that one specifically.
Dan Green?
Okay,
Yeah, but
you got his
over
number right.
yeah, I think so. I think so. I have a Dark Magician card that's cool with him, but like you said, not the best movie. Kind of especially considering the third movie is one of the most beloved ones in Pokemon. But it's a step down, but it's not irredeemable.
Yeah, I think if they had stuck to a specific message and then uh, and maybe done more of just 2D animation and skipped the inclusion of CGI, it would have been much more well received.
Yes, yes, I agree. Then there's Pokemon Heroes, Jirachi Wishmaker. The next few ones are going to be fun, I think.
Yeah, we're about five away from your favorite. I know.
I know. Oh, Lucario and the Mystery of Mew. That's one of the better
Uh,
ones.
no. I think you're missing one there.
No, that weird Mirage special where the voices change and then they change back and then they change back to the ones we have now. I mean, it's only like 30 or 40 minutes, and it's sure.
It's not the one I'm talking about.
Darkrai,
No,
the Mystery Dungeon specials.
no.
I legit do want to talk about the Mystery Dungeon specials because they're because I loved them as a kid, but I'm scared that when I rewatch them now, I'm gonna be like, maybe these aren't as good as I remember.
Yeah, they're a little weird.
But anything
yeah,
else to say before we close out?
No, I think we've about covered it.
All right, so ladies, gentlemen, stamplers, what did you guys think of Pokemon Forever? Did you think it was better than we thought? Did you think it was worse than we thought? How would you rank it among Pokemon movies?
Yeah, and do you have ways that, if you agree with us, do you have ways that you think it could easily be improved, or uh, or anything that you might change about it?
Yeah, just be sure to let us know. We'd like to review more movies. I'm kind of starting to get to the point where I'm like, I kind of want to review some Naruto movies, but probably starting from the beginning.
Okay, I could do that.
Yeah. Yeah, especially it'll be different because a lot of the Naruto movies I've never seen before, so it would be a very fresh perspective for me in particular.
Okay, yeah, no, I remember watching the especially the original like three from the original series on Cartoon Network in the back in the good old days.
Yeah, they're all on Netflix, so they're easy to access for us. But we'll talk about that another day.
All right.
All right, but be sure to let us know what you think. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Be good to yourselves, be good to each other. We'll see you next time. This has been Alex.
And Richard.
And you have been listening to Anime Egotists. Good night, and peace easy.